Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Max Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, not one of your hosts. I'm just the host, Max Roberts. And joining me this particular episode is one Ricky Frech. Hey, Ricky.
How's it going, Max?
Fine and dandy. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I get to do podcasts now because I no longer have to work nights all the time like I was most of last year. So it's very exciting to be back in the podcast rotation.
Yeah, you get you work normal human hours mostly.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Most of the time.
Normal human hours are very, very good. Speaking of your job, you're associate editor man over at DoubleXP.
Yeah, recently rebranded from GameFAQs. That happened in the middle of the night they were like, this could happen anytime in the next 48 hours. And then 3 hours later, it just happened after I logged off for the day. Yeah, it was weird. And then
that's strange.
And then some of our freelancers that work for us were just tweeting about it in like not the middle of the night, but kind of the middle of the night. And I was like, What? I just got onto Twitter, and they're like, hey, I write for DoubleXP now. I was like, what? No, you don't. And then went to our Slack, and they're like, it happened, I guess. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
How does that even happen? I feel like this would be a more coordinated thing.
Okay, so without knowing exactly how much I'm allowed to say, I'll just say that our company is technically based in Australia.
Okay.
So happening in the middle of the night here, is not that crazy. And them wanting to make sure all the traffic transfers over so we don't lose ad revenue.
Of course.
It was kind of like when they think it's good to go, it's going to go, and we aren't going to know exactly when it's going to happen.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. It's been a process because of them rightfully so, worried about how ad revenue would transfer over. And luckily, the next day, our numbers were still the same. So
good.
Nothing so far has messed up that I'm going to lose my job or something.
I'll say this. I like the name DoubleXP more than GameFAQs.
I don't think you're the only one. I think that's everybody.
Yeah, I like it a lot. But I'll say this. The SEO, if you just type in DoubleXP into Google, it's Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. So if you could manifest, if you could grace Google's SEO by being the top Call of Duty DoubleXP weekend article, that would be, kind of double layer there. But I think it's a great name. And the logo, I like the logo a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think everything is much better than how it used to be.
Yellow and black, I'm a fan of. So.
Yeah, those are my high school colors. So.
Okay. It all comes around, doesn't it? It all comes
Once
back.
a boomer, always a boomer. Was what they say.
Is that the high school slogan?
Yeah, that was, yes. Every speech, that was what our principal ended it with at the Woodward High School Boomers. Woodward High School, home of the Boomers.
Wait, was your mascot really the Boomer?
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you, okay, so I know that's funny now, but let me give you the history lesson behind why it's the Boomers.
I want to hear it.
As you probably know, Max and people out there is the Oklahoma University, the home of the Sooners. I'm the boss and the owner, and they want the album sooner. Should have named it Oklahoma. The Sooners, where they got their name from, is when they did the Oklahoma Land Run, way back when, there were people who crossed the line early and basically stole property from other people. So basically, there was like a line, the Oklahoma-Kansas line, and at a certain time, you could go across the land and go stake your claim for land, and people cross the line early, and those are called the Sooners. So they named their college mascot after cheaters, which makes sense given who they are. The Boomers are the people who went on time, the time you're supposed to go. So we're the only mascot in the whole country that are the Boomers. So that's the history behind our name. It's pretty cool. Not really, but sort of.
And now it has a whole new context to it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. An unfortunate new context.
I would think the kids there now, I feel like the meme potential is high.
It's got to be off the charts.
It's really high at that school. If you've got some really smart, funny kids there, I would think it's pretty high. So you're associate editor over there, big time.
Mm-hmm.
I know a couple other people.
Big time.
Dude, if you look at the masthead on the site, you've got Chris up top, Chris Compendio.
Yeah.
Who I know. And you're right below him.
That's true, yeah.
Associate editor, And then next to you, the international editor and the features editor. Dude, you're second in on the list.
I guess so.
You're a big shot.
That's like sort of true because, there's obviously people above Chris. Like our site is part of a bigger conglomerate of sites. So,
and it always is.
And then like I would consider some of the senior writers above me in the pecking order because they've been there longer. And to be frank, they're like really good at their job. And their job is to bring in the traffic and my job is to edit their stuff. So we're like together, but yeah.
No, you're second on the masthead. I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
You're second in charge. I looked at the like author page. You can click on an author's name and take the other articles. I couldn't find an article by you, so I just looked at the style of the URL and then typed in, Ricky-Frech, and nothing came up. And then I realized, oh yes, he's an editor. He probably
Really? Nothing comes up?
I didn't see anything come up. I thought maybe some guides or something.
That can't be true. Hold on. Yeah, that can't be true.
Maybe
that must be something in the redirect that I'll have to
address.
Because I've written guides, like I told you in a private message. I wrote 35 guides 2 weeks ago because
I get a 404. You don't exist.
No, mine is here.
Did I type your...
Did you spell it French or did you spell it
No.
Frech with a K?
Nope. Frech.
Frec.
What's the URL? What am I missing? Am I missing the...
This is great podcasting.
Well, I am.
Here
I'm
you
super
go.
fascinated. Oh, there's no hyphen.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Someone else had a hyphen, so I assumed that was the style. Okay, good.
Oh,
there are your
weird.
articles
Okay.
now. I was like, dang, does he just only edit? I thought maybe the guides that you had told me you wrote the other day were for a different site.
Nope, not allowed. That's not allowed,
Ooh.
Max. I'm
right.
exclusive, except for Survivor. I've got that. We'll talk about Survivor later, I think, but I got that in my contract that I'm allowed to write about Survivor for other sites.
Oh,
that was
gosh.
like one of my only questions
Okay.
when they wanted to make me full-time.
That's insane. I want to talk. All right. I want to save Survivor.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's talk about the guide stuff because that actually was part of the conversation. I've been writing, I think you're one of maybe 4 subscribers, but I've been writing a newsletter for, I think, 10 weeks now called Wiki Stories, just kind of chronicling my time writing freelance guides for IGN, which is what I ended up doing. So I've got guide writing and stuff on my mind. I haven't done a guide since 2019. My last one was a particular season of that Mario Kart Live, the mobile one, the iOS game.
Oh, right.
I did a season of that, and that was the last one I worked on. It's changed completely. I feel like the whole scene on some level has changed in the past 3 years to whatever extent. But you still write guides, and
Yes.
You apparently exclusively do them for DoubleXP. I thought
Nowadays, yeah.
you still did like some freelance stuff for IGN or other sites like that. So talk me through that, the exclusivity of it.
Okay. So basically, when did that happen? I guess it would have been January.
Okay.
I went exclusive, so full-time for them. And like my job is not to write guides anymore. I did for a long time write guides for them. I was also their evening editor for a long time, which is why I had weird hours. And then when I transferred over to full-time, there was like 2 months where they were trying to get someone else to be the evening editor, who's actually now the Australian editor. And so he just works our evenings, even though it's the day for him.
Okay.
But that stuff doesn't matter. But anyway, so I'm just supposed to be editing, but like there's another guy on our staff who's also full-time, who's like the sports guy. He does all the sports and the racing games. And so because when he has stuff to do, I just come in and write guides. So, like I said, a couple weeks ago, I wrote, I think 35, and that was because he was like focused on the show. So then that meant all the NBA stuff still had to be covered. All the FIFA stuff had to be covered. all that stuff still has to happen. And it happened to be a massive week for both of those games too. So it just was like the perfect storm where I was writing like 6 guides a day or whatever. It was ridiculous. And that's those guides that I'm talking about. The ones we write at DoubleXP are very different from what you're used to, I think, as a wiki writer at IGN, which I did do. I think I did 10 wikis in under a year at IGN in 2021.
That's a big
Yeah.
deal.
It sounds like a lot, but some of them are, a lot of those, not a lot, several of those were sports games. So it's even those are way different than what you would do in like, I think I read your Witcher 3 thing recently, and I have done big games like, well, I shouldn't say big games in terms of content, not maybe in terms of like popularity as a wiki. So I did all the side quests and everything for Neo, The World Ends With You. Okay. And that was one of those like, look, I love the IGN wiki team. Miranda's great. They're all good people. That was one of the worst experiences of my life, just because I got paid the same to write that guide as I got paid to write a FIFA, like the FIFA wiki for them. And it took like 5 or 6 times as long. Yes. Because there's so much to freaking do. Right. And, I actually like the wiki style more in some respects than what we do, which is like, so in a wiki, you're doing everything, right? You say, okay, Max, you're assigned to go do the Witcher 3 guide, the whole wiki. Maybe for Witcher 3, it probably wouldn't be the whole wiki. You'd probably do like the main story, or you do the side quests or whatever.
Yeah, I was the main story in the base Witcher.
Right. So what we would do, so like Elden Ring is a really good example right now for us, because Elden Ring was massive. It gave us our biggest month in terms of numbers ever.
Holy smokes.
Because Elden Ring is huge. And so at DoubleXP, I'm going to say GamePer multiple times, but I'll try my hardest to say DoubleXP.
On brand.
Yeah. It would be something like you would get a guide that is how to fight Margit, where to find such and such item, best build for such and such class, right. They're all broken out into singular guides. So that, I think it makes it go faster. It also means that you can have multiple people working on it at once. So for Elden Ring, we probably had 8 to 10 people just churning through content in that game. So it does make it go faster. The issue becomes if I'm trying to guide this game or help guide this game and there's multiple people doing it, then what if we're all working on the same thing? We don't know about it, because
what
it's hard
if we're
to
all trying to figure out how to fight Margaret?
Yeah. It's very hard to coordinate that kind of stuff, which makes it difficult for me as an editor now to really help with guides aside from the stuff that is super easy, like sports, because, I have to work most of my day editing. So I'm going to be behind all of our guide writers in playing. So I can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
you're coming in doing the editing part of it, and they're 10 hours ahead of you because they've been playing it and writing on the, in real time, like play, write, play, write. And then you're like, oh, I got to edit. And then you kind of know what's going to come up in the game too.
Yes. Yeah. Elden Ring was a weird one though, because there's so much stuff in that game.
Sure.
That I would just go behind them and do guides of like where to find certain items or where to like crafting materials or, cookbooks or stuff like that. That is going to bring in traffic and people are going to search. However, it's not going to be the top of the mind for the guide writer who going through it, because they're trying to push progression to get to the next boss, to write about the boss. So that was like the perfect storm, when you look at something like Kirby, which I reviewed for us.
Yeah, I just pulled that up.
I could come through and do guides for that afterwards, but most likely it's better for me to push through the review and then hope we have guide writers coming in behind me. Because it's just hard to do both at the same time. Which you probably know.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to balance all that stuff out in real time. I never did a review for IGN, but I did other projects for them or things that had deadlines and, what can we promote this weekend and things like that.
Right, yeah. The World Ends With You is the worst thing I ever did. But that was like bad in terms of I didn't like it. The hardest thing I ever did that was still good was doing the NBA 2K21, 2K22 review and guide at the same time at IGN, because that was a lot.
Did you see Jake from State Farm?
I did, and I think I'm the only person in the world who thought that was funny because it was so stupid.
I think it is hilarious.
And then Dan Stapleton, he made me take the part where I thought it was funny out of my review because he said people wouldn't like that, and I was like, oh, fair enough. I mean, most people probably won't. I mean, he made me make it sound more, which is true. Call it out for being product placement, which is true. He's not wrong.
1000% is, but it's funny product placement.
But he was like, you need, because, and this is an issue with sports games in general. I don't have a big problem with spending money in those games because I do spend money in those games because I don't play a lot of other games.
Sure.
I mean, I don't play a lot of other games for fun. I play a lot of other games for work. But if I'm going to have an hour, I'll probably end up playing a sports game. So because I play them so much, I don't mind spending money. So to me, those microtransactions aren't that bad, even though in my head I know they are. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, this isn't really that big of an issue because you either don't spend the money and you can still have a fine, you still be good at the game, or you can spend money and it's your money. So, and rightfully so, he was like, no, we need to call this out that it's bad. And I was like, okay, yeah, it is bad, but I have a different perspective than other people because of how I play those games, I guess.
Yeah, IGN's audience probably is more on the microtransactions are terrible.
You're very right about that.
And I'm sure Dan tries to have that kind of balance as good as possible, especially after the whole, not it's related to microtransactions, but the whole too much water thing, which was his call. And I'm sure that has haunted him ever since. Yeah. I once argued with Dan. I've been to IGN once. It was their old building. I believe they've moved since the pandemic. But I was out there in 2018, I want to say, and I got to visit the wiki team, Brendan, Miranda, Casey, and John, and Sam, and other people there. And I met Dan, and I had brought up how I think Iron Man 3 is the best MCU movie, and I'd probably still stand by that. Maybe No Way Home now, because No Way Home ties in Toby and Andrew, but just its own.
It does? I'm just kidding. I haven't seen the movie, but I also don't care about spoilers.
My mom didn't know that, so she Doc Ock shows up is kind of the first thing. And she actually, apparently, this is what they told me, threw a fit. She was like, they are so lazy that they are just doing the same thing with the same actor 15 years later or whatever. She didn't understand until they all showed up. She didn't understand the premise, which funny. I would have paid anything to be there and have my mom flip out that Doc Ock returned. But back to Iron Man 3, I argued with Dan why I thought Iron Man 3 was a really great movie. I did not win that argument, which I think is probably a sign that I was... I don't remember how old I was, early 20s, whatever that may have been. Yeah, I don't know, early 20s. And Dan has been arguing with people in review context for probably most of my life. He's very good at it, but I still stand by it. You cannot shake me, Dan. Iron Man 3 is good. You talking about Neo, The World Ends With You, though, reminded me of one of my really terrible wiki experiences, which was coming off a good year, 2018, was it right before God of War? Maybe it was kicking off 2018. It was Metal Gear Survive.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oof. I ended up with that one. And so that was a game that came out after Metal Gear Solid 5. It was like a tower defense kind of game, but also a random RNG map and fog and survival and monsters and a really terrible story. I was on the guide for that one. And so I got paid, the standard rate, at least at the time, $500 to grind through that atrocity. Wow. But then, I could get $250 an episode for a Telltale game, and
Yeah.
that takes a couple hours to like play through and then write about it. So
Yeah, it's definitely for anybody that wants to get into writing guides, you definitely need to think about it. And I mean that you need to look at their rate and think about how much time you're going to spend, because when I did okay, so the rates are higher now at IGN. I think the rates are higher.
I mean, that's
almost
really good
across
to
the
hear.
board. Yeah. But if you're going in and you want to do, okay, so I don't know how it used to work when you did it, but the way it works now is once you get in, which can be, there's lots of ways you can get into it, right? You can have someone recommend you, which is kind of how I got in. You can apply or what, there's lots of ways to do it now.
I worked in wikis for free, like 3 or 4 wikis for free,
yeah.
Just did that. And I got in contact with Sam and was like, hey, is there a paid opportunity? And it turned out there was. So, there's tons of routes in to becoming a freelance guide writer, at least at IGN for our experience.
Yeah. So the way it works now is until they know you and like what you're good at and what your interests are, is they'll send out a feeler every once in a while, be like, hey, I need someone to do this and such game. And then you say, oh, I'd like to do that. And in my opinion, for how much they pay, which is it's not bad for most games, but if they were like, hey, I need someone to do God of War Ragnarok, I'd say someone full time needs to do that, because that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of a person,
Mm-hmm.
And because you're limited there in some ways, because it's not. I think it can be a negotiation, but usually it's a base fee. Whereas like a site like DoubleXP, and I'm not saying this to say we're better than IGN, because obviously they're way huge and they're always going to rank. Like I remember them asking me to write the Inscription guide months after that game came out, and I was like, why would we write, like, people already, how are we going to track on this? And I was like, wait, this is IGN. If I write it, it's going to be a top result.
It'll be in the top 3.
Yeah, so it didn't matter that we were behind, because is IGN, you know what I mean? Like the speed doesn't matter.
You're fine.
Yeah. So like they operate on different levels, but the reason I like the way we do it, where you get paid per guide, is it takes off that cap, that monetary cap. And so obviously there has to be traffic there. I'm not just going to let someone write 40 guides in a week because they want to, like, I'm not going to get someone.
It's got to track with your actual ad revenue and like where you're getting money in to pay them.
But if you're into Elden Ring, which obviously this is over now, but if you're into Elden Ring, you could write, you can make a month's worth of money in a week if you wanted to, because it's just like free reign to go. Whereas in IGN, you're kind of capped. And there's other sites that work similarly to us, like Tech Radar. No, what is it called? Crap, I should have this.
Tech Raptor.
Tech Raptor is very similar. Fanbyte is also another good place to look at if you're looking for guides nowadays. They pay very well.
Okay.
And like, especially if you're a sports person, I did a bunch of MLB The Show stuff for them last year, and it was great. Both time investment and how much I got back. And then Fanbyte, and this is very niche, but it's related to my story and like how I got here, I guess. Fanbyte also bought Wowhead, and when they wanted guides for Diablo 2 Resurrected, they knew that I played that game a lot, and they were like, hey, can you come in and write guides? And in my head I was like, do you want me to write guides for a game that came out in 2000 and 2001, 2000, maybe it was 2000?
Yeah.
But they paid me very well to basically go refresh myself on a game I put probably 3,000 hours in as a middle school student. And so it was like, that was some of the easiest money I've ever made, because I already knew everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was I'm a big, obviously I'm a big DoubleXP fan, but I'm also a big Fanbyte fan as places to work. I think they're both pretty great.
And
they treat their people way. Fanbyte treats their people very well, as do we. And not that IGN doesn't, But, you know.
I do think just like the IGN has always treated me good when I was working for them. It's always good that, you know, they paid, you'd get games sometimes early, they worked with you. I'd probably say half-ish of the guides I was on some form of a team where a full-time person was there, which was always good. They would let me pitch certain games and be like, hey, can I work on this? And sometimes they get the green light for that. And then somehow they would hire / trusted me to like work on some of the biggest games in the last 7 years, you know, like God of War and Red Dead 2 and Zelda and stuff. You know, those are stuff I don't know. They needed more hands on deck than they had. I don't know how I got work on those games. It was nuts. But I think at the time, and again, it could be different now. It sounds like at least they pay more, but like the scale there for some games to others is just whack. Because you could, like The Witcher. Now, I was compensated later for Witcher work because I kept doing work for it. And I think almost like you were saying, traffic was high for that game, especially when it came out, that like they ended up retroactively But up front, I was only hired for that $400 cap. And then I kept working on stuff and they were like, we'll give you more money, I guess. And so that ended up working out in my favor. But I think my PS4 says I put like 100. I have it right here. I should just look at it. I put 174 hours into The Witcher.
Ooh,
and that was
that's just playing. Yeah.
That was just play. And I haven't played it since. Like, this isn't extra playtime. I didn't play the second round of DLC because I wasn't hired for it. You know, that's just play. And then there's all the editing, the writing, the uploading. It's bonkers. And, you know, that was, let's say 120 of those hours, 140, was just the base game. That was only $900. That's not a good hourly rate of just playtime. But then there are other games, like one of them, which I'm excited to write about. I think it's in a few weeks. One in 2016, Sam approached me to write about McDonald's Monopoly, like the one where you'd go to the restaurant and peel off the cups and fries and stuff and play Monopoly. I wrote a guide for that.
Okay.
Right. It was one of the easiest. Now, that wasn't the $500 rate. That was purely traffic based, but that was not hard at all. Like, so that ratio is way higher than something like The Witcher as time, money, investment stuff. It's just some of that stuff. I worked Black Friday for them one year. That is insane.
I bet.
Dude,
that sounds crazy.
It's also how I learned how Wario64 makes all of his money. It's those darn referral codes.
Yeah.
It's stuff's crazy.
I will say that one thing that I am really interested about IGN, and this is very specific to them, but I know this because I applied for this job and did not get it, is they just hired, and I don't know who it is, but they just hired a new guides editor whose focus, and this is why I applied. I didn't apply because I don't like my job, but I applied because it's like very much up my alley. But the focus of this new editor is to do live content, which is something they like had just started to dabble with when I was there, which is kind of wild to me that it's this far.
Right.
You know, it's 2022 and so I think, I don't know if I was the first person, but they brought me I did the Forza 5 guide, the full guide, and then they had me stick around to do the first month of live content. So every Thursday I would update the guide.
Well, I know Fortnite, they had people on.
Yeah.
But yeah. I feel like Fortnite's almost a separate beast, even though it is a live game.
And they might have someone on Genshin. I feel like those are the two, but it seemed like they were trying to dip into sports some more and some other stuff like that. So I think that maybe some of those games would be good because, I mean, look, I know from experience and being able to look at the numbers that there is money in putting out guides about all the new FIFA stuff that happens every single day of the week almost.
Right.
So
to me, it's interesting. This is kind of the big thing I think of as having changed, at least in my experience of guide writing, to like the stuff you're doing today, is these more one-off articles of like how to do X, or Here's
Right.
what's new in FIFA. Those articles existed while I was doing this type of work, but it was never what I was working on. They would find out what they could pull from my guide and make a promotable article out of. Like, here's how to save everyone in Until Dawn. That's something that could be nice on the weekend or whatever. But I never was writing, here's how you unlock Terminator or Mortal Kombat or whatever. But I think that's the big thing, because you're generating more pages, which could then generate more clicks, more eyes. You're bouncing around. It's not all in one place, so to speak, but search is the way people navigate the internet. It is, how do I do this? How do I unlock this? How do I go there? Where is this? Wiki guides are just the digital version of the paper guides, with also taking in like form style post where people could contribute, just kind of merging those two together. But these articles are more BuzzFeed like in a way, not so much the like clickbait, look at all of our pictures, BuzzFeed signature style, but we have all of this content for this one thing, instead of one thing that covers all of this, one guide that you can branch off it to. It's one topic spread across so many different pages or writers and articles.
Yeah.
I think that's the fascinating thing. You can crank out stuff way faster.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I don't know, I go back and forth. I do like the wikis because I like the hard part about when you do those one-off guides, even if they're not one-off, say it's a game where you have 100 guides on it on your site. It's hard to, you can't link to all those other stuff on the page.
It's not, it's separated. It's not all in one place.
So I don't know what the perfect solution is, but I wish there was one, because if there was a way to, I don't know. So my favorite guide writer is still on GameFAQs.
Yes.
I don't know if you are a Yakuza fan.
No.
Okay.
I haven't played them yet. Someday.
Okay. Well, when you do play them, please make sure you go see, I think it's Cyric Z. They make some of the best guides on the internet. And they're like pretty much only do it for the Yakuza games, but they are so detailed, and so like they go so in depth and tell you exactly where you need to go, exactly what you need to do. They are one of the biggest lifesavers for those games. And
I've got it pulled up right now.
Oh, I love them. They're so good.
Yakuza 5 is the first game I could think of.
Well, yeah, you chose one of the worst ones.
Oh, well, what guide should I pull up here on GameFAQs?
Look. The guide is probably great. I said the game is bad.
Oh, okay. I just thought, I was like, Yakuza 5. This is like super well segmented. There's a table of contents, and this is like a manual.
Yeah,
there's combat, exploring, walkthrough. Huh.
Yeah.
And this is one person?
Guides. Yes, one person.
What?
I know. It's crazy. And they're doing it on GameFAQs. GameFAQs.
I've been going to GameFAQs since I was in elementary school.
I know, but
I probably vote in that daily poll. It's probably the most consistent thing I've ever done on the internet.
Look, you still voting in the poll?
Yeah, every day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
didn't know there were still GameFAQs fans out there.
I use GameFAQs primarily for two things. I go here for the poll every day, and when I'm playing an old game, I go here for cheats and guides, because I feel like these kind of capture the spirit of that time, and it takes me back, seeing these like ASCII art, walkthroughs and facts and stuff. It's just fun. We're working on season 3 of Chapter Select right now. I'll tell you later, Ricky, what the game is, but it's an older one where it definitely has GameFAQ pages, and I was using it for some of the stuff I was getting stuck on in this older game, and it's part of it is comforting, and the other part is super frustrating, because how did anyone beat games like this? Because this is some other guy or kid who was in their basement writing this stuff in a text editor, and no editor was looking at it. It's so And you can find different levels of commitment or dedication to it, and people are knocking it out of the park. And apparently, this Cyrix Z person out here killing it.
Yes. Yeah. They are the best. They are a lifesaver for me, personally, at least.
That is wild. I'm going to link this in the show notes. Absolutely. This is cool. That is so neat. Maybe we should just all go back to GameFAQs. That's how guides should be. That would be great. Remember when YouTube promised that it would incorporate YouTube with Stadia, and you could say like how to do this, and then a video would magically pop up?
Oh yeah.
What a time.
That'd have been cool.
Would have been cool. Would have been super helpful if anyone used Stadia.
How were they planning to curate that and make sure you didn't get...
They probably were just, who knows what you could have got. I don't know. It doesn't matter because it doesn't exist and never will.
That's true. Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. One of the things you brought up a lot, which I think makes sense because A, it's what you seem to like the most, and B, you've also done a lot of work on is these sports games.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say, do I like them the most? Sometimes I feel like I'm a gambling addict more than a fan.
Okay. I could see that. I guess to segue naturally, to kind of flow, like how does a guide work for a sport game? Because that's got to be, you've got to be on top of that game. Like it's not like once it's out, you're done with it. Like you always have to be looking at it.
Yeah, okay. So here's the secret. I could teach you how to write sports game guides in probably 5 minutes and you would be good to go. You just have to know when it comes out, and you have to know like the format that it needs to be in, right? Because to be honest, once you get past the first week where you're writing gameplay guides of actually how to play the game, it's just keeping up with the live content. Mm-hmm. So like there's a thing in FIFA, which is it's the best and easiest example. So they're called squad building challenges. So what it is I don't know if you've ever played FIFA's Ultimate Team.
I have never played 1 second of FIFA.
Okay. So the way Ultimate Team works, and this is how they get all their money from people, is you start and you have your club, and there you have 11 players. I don't know how many players, 18 players in your team, and over time, all those players are represented by cards, right? And so they have like their little card art and blah, blah, blah. And over time, you're going to get better players, new cards that take up those spots, right? So then as you get better players, then you can, progress and play against, theoretically, you can get better at the game and play against tougher opposition in the form of either the computer or more likely against other humans online. So there are things called squad building challenges. And what these are is those cards you're not using. So you've either like packed them out of packs that you get for rewards, or you spent money and you bought packs, nothing wrong with it. It's your money. If you're an adult, it's okay.
It's just like trading cards.
Yeah, except for trading cards are real and, they don't go away at the end of the year. So you're going to take those cards and you're going to do a squad building challenge, and there's going to be like some kind of like puzzle where it'll be, you have to make a squad of 11 players that has 2 Brazilians, and the squad altogether is going to be rated as 83, and you have to do it with a certain amount of chemistry. I won't explain what all that means because it doesn't matter, but you're going to put in the little players, the little cards, wherever, in the right order, in the right place, and then submit those. They go away forever. They're gone. Those are out of your club. They don't exist anymore, and you get something new. It might be a new player. It might be a new pack that you can open. And those come out almost every single day. And so you can go write a guide and you're like, here are the requirements. And here is, we've solved the puzzle for you. We've already done it. Here's a solution. You just have to go buy these players, blah, 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 put them into your squad, blah, 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 and then you have whatever you want. So like you can do that every day almost, and make whatever your place charges for guides. And then also there's some that are like objectives in gameplay. So it'll be like you have to score so many goals. And fortunately for guide makers, none of these sports games do a good job of giving you that data while you're in the game. So unless you're writing it down for yourself, which I do, a good thing to have is like have a guide open that has, here's the objectives I have to do during this game to get this new thing in my game. And so, it's very, very simple, and it's very, very easy if you know what you're doing. And to know what you're doing, you have to be playing it all the time. And, no one, it's like in my head every day, I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. I have to go check NBA. It's noon. I have to go check FIFA. It's 2. I have to go check MLB The Show. I know their release schedule better than my own schedule. And so I just go check everything that's happening. And if there's something to write about, now at this point, if there's something to write about and no one else is on writing about it, then I'll write about it. But yeah, sports games are very easy to cover, but also no one wants to cover them.
It sounds like they don't end.
They don't end until the next one comes out, but then the next one starts. So they don't end, truthfully.
Do you just have like pen and paper next to you to keep track of this stuff? Or are you keeping track of it on your phone in a note? Or do you have an actual like article open on a laptop next to you that you're filling this out as you play a game of FIFA or something? Okay,
so do you mean when I'm writing the article or when I'm playing myself?
Like you were saying that you keep track of, like if a game has so many objectives, score this many goals, block this, whatever, you keep track of it because the game apparently doesn't communicate that very well.
Yeah. So in front of me right now, I have 2 monitors and a 45-inch TV right up here. And so when I'm playing sports games, I'm just looking at my computer and I have like a Google Sheet open that's tracking what I need to be tracking to make sure that I have NBA is much more complicated than FIFA because they have these things called I apologize because we're getting really into this. I'm sure you don't really care that much.
I'm fascinated by this.
Okay. So they have these things called EVOs. And what that means is it's a player that will, if you do certain things with them, they will evolve into a higher rated player. And right now,
Pokemon.
Sort of. Kind of.
Is it like a rookie Michael Jordan that will evolve into pro Michael Jordan, or is it this player turns into a completely different player?
Okay, so it is the first thing you said.
Okay.
But I want to point out that NBA 2K22 and WWE 2K22 has, in my personal opinion, the worst way of like rating cards, because what you just said, where you're like, ooh, it could be a rookie into a pro, that would make sense within the game of NBA, because that's a thing that happens. In 2K22, cards begin as a gold card, which makes sense. That's FIFA also has, they have bronze, silver, gold, and then special. So like special can be all kinds of crap. But in NBA, it goes from gold to emerald to sapphire.
This is
ruby,
Pokemon.
Yeah. Ruby, amethyst, diamond, pink diamond, galaxy opal. And finally, when you hit level 99, you are a dark matter.
What?
Because that makes sense.
Dark matter? What?
Yes.
What?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid, but that's what they do. Dark matter.
So they kind of have like a Pokemon kick there, and then they just go almost League of Legends-y, and then just sci-fi.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've never, I hate it because I hate writing in my articles Galaxy Opal and Pink Diamond because it seems so stupid, but that's what they call it. And you got to use their jargon.
Because that's what people are searching for.
Uh-huh.
Ooh. That doesn't sound fun on the work side, or even as a player to like really keep track of that.
No.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
And no one calls them that. Everyone, like, so if it's a dark matter, of course everyone just shortens it, so it's just DM, or a Galaxy Opal is Geo, right? So like,
Go
no one's like,
and DM, yeah, because those search terms are really helpful.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just so lame. It's so lame. I hate it.
Have you made a slide into DM joke in any of your guides? Like, from Galaxy Opal to DM, slide that.
There has not been. I will though, probably, but I don't know if there's been so we don't write about cards that go into packs because there's nothing to write about there, right? So there might have been a card that evos from a Galaxy Opal to a Dark Matter in packs. There hasn't been one in rewards, so something we could write about because it's something you can earn. But if there is, I will now use that joke. Because I hadn't even thought about it.
Slide into DM. See, bam.
That's a good,
it's right there.
It's a good excerpt. That's a good excerpt for sure.
That's your subheading. FIFA suddenly teaching you, or NBA, whichever one that was, suddenly teaching you how to talk to people that you're interested in possibly dating and getting better at their sport video game.
Yeah.
So these games are like live for a year or whatever, or really they have a dev cycle of 8-9 months or something, and then why isn't it just a service at this point? Like, is this a good or bad thing? My brain thinks, why isn't there just FIFA and you pay an annual subscription and then they update the roster or what have you? Does that make sense, or is that not what the players want at all?
I think okay, so I think that the players think that's what they want. Even I think that's what I want. But the issue is, the reason that they do it is because they make more money. The reason that you could say for like an Ultimate Team having a new version every year is if you have to plan your power curve, so you start out with low level teams, and then by the end of the season you have these like god tier, everyone has disgusting teams whether they paid money or not. If you have to start that curve and plan it for like 5 years instead of a year, people are going to be playing with those crappy teams for a whole year, right? So, or at least a year. So it's not going to be as exciting, and it might feel even more pay to win because then, people are going to go buy the good players if they can, and then they're going to be better than you because they have better cards, which isn't always the case. Sometimes I'll play people that have the best cards and they suck. But a lot of times if you have really good cards, it can bump you up a couple tiers in how good you are just because you have better players than somebody else. So I think that's the big reason why they couldn't just say, when the new season starts, which works really well in a basketball game. Obviously, FIFA's more difficult than that because European season, so Premier League, Serie A, Ligue 1, the Bundesliga, all those are going to end in the middle of May, whereas the MLS goes through the summer, right? So, and not that the MLS is on the same level as those other leagues, but the schedule's not the same, right? So you couldn't just say the new season is starting, so now everyone has to start over from zero. So and then I don't know, it's just very it'd be very confusing because you'd either have a super long power curve that would piss people off, or you would do the forced reset. And then, what would they do with those old cards? What would you... I get it from... It makes sense from everything except for Ultimate Team standpoint. So, you're talking career mode, just normal online play, where you're not, building your own team. Anything like that, it would make sense not to have a yearly cycle. But in terms of the thing that makes them money, which is Ultimate Team for all of these sports games, even, Madden, the show... 2K, FIFA, that's where they make all their money. It doesn't make a lot of sense to go that way. And I think the players think it's a good idea, and I think they're probably wrong. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong. Who knows? I could be completely incorrect. It just depends on how the people at FIFA, at EA Sports, at Visual Concepts, and Sony San Diego, how they make the game happen, because that whole power curve thing is such a very delicate balance. And they have, 2K has completely ruined their power curve this year. It is, people are way too good, way too early. And it is that game is dying a little bit right now because people are so bored, in terms of you can't make a better team now,
because you're already at the top.
Yeah, everyone already has incredible players. They have 7'2" guys that can shoot threes and hit a step back in your face and shoot over you. The power curve has gotten a little too strong this year, and FIFA's messed up. so they have like the transfer market where you can buy and sell players. So like I could sell, I mean, I wouldn't sell it to you. I just sell it to anybody, but I could sell a player I don't need on the transfer market and get money to go buy my own players.
In-game currency money?
In-game currency.
Okay.
For now. People think NFTs are going to come in some way.
I'm sure that will. For sure.
I don't think it would work, but people seem to think it's going to be a thing.
Oh, I don't think NFTs would work, but I do think that a game company will try in a sport game.
That's fair. Did you... never mind. I don't know. It's Survivor related. There's a new NFT Survivor game that is very shady that I saw the other day. Anyways, that doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know how exactly that would work if they switch it over, because like the power curves are already so weird, and for different reasons, like wildly different reasons, based on what they've been doing in the game to change things up. And part of that might be that they're worried about legislation coming out about loot boxes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Kind of been looming.
Yeah, it's all very weird right now, and I'm not quite sure like what the path forward is. FIFA's in a really weird spot because I think they're going to get rid of the FIFA license.
I think, I remember something about them losing that license. And not that it's soccer related, but isn't the NCAA coming back as a game too?
Yes.
For football?
Oh my God. Max, okay. Look, I play FIFA and 2K because for a couple of reasons, right? I really like soccer. I watch soccer way more than any other sport. And FIFA is a great way to like, play with those players I like. It makes you feel cool. You're like, oh, I'm playing with Cristiano Ronaldo. That's awesome. Also, it is like the ultimate podcast game. This is a big thing for me. It's like I can watch a video and play it. I don't have to be completely checked in. And when it's 10 o'clock on a Monday and I have 2 hours before I go to bed, I don't want to sit and play Yakuza. I want to play something where I can just turn my brain off and not pay attention. So that's why I play a lot of esports games. FIFA's perfect for that. 2K is a little different. I don't really watch the NBA anymore, but the gameplay, like 2K has so much in terms of content to do that like there's always something you could be playing. And again, you don't really have to pay attention. I could just, smack down a computer team 75-20 on the hardest difficulty because I've gotten that good at the game, and I can be watching old Are You Afraid of the Darks, which is what I've been doing for the past couple of days. But when the NCAA football game comes out, I don't know if people will see me again.
When is that? Does that have a window at all?
I think it's 2023. I hope. Whew. I really hope. Yeah. I think I paid for NCAA 14, which was the last one they made, and somehow I lost my copy. I think I paid $150 for that. And I would say it was worth every single penny. It was one of the best video games, not sports games. It was one of the best video games ever made. And if it's even half as good, look, Madden is in the worst place it's ever been, and it's not even close. Madden is trash. So if you like football, you do not have a video game to play right now. But if NCAA football comes back and it's as good as it used to be, it's going to be gross how much money I spent on that game.
It does look like summer of 23 is at least what they initially were aiming for back in December of 21. So
let's hope.
Yeah, for those folks, definitely.
I'll just quit my job and become a streamer.
Yeah, NCAA
I'm probably
streamer.
not good enough. I'm probably not good enough at video games to do that, especially because I'm old. My reflexes aren't what they used to be.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, in the age that we seem to be in with the console and other big publishers and developers, this age of streaming, where everyone has a streaming service, Game Pass. Now we've got PlayStation Plus Ultimate, is that what they call it? Or Platinum or something? Platinum.
Yeah, I think it's an E. No. The first one's an E. Essentials.
Essential, Ultimate?
Essential is like the baseline, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think it's extra, and then you might be right. I think it is premium or platinum.
Premium. That's what it is. So that's coming out, and then EA's had EA Play. I think that's what that's called forever.
Yeah.
Ubisoft has one. These services I think Grand Theft Auto just launched one, which is wild that they just did that. Uh-huh. But I wonder if these sports developers and publishers are looking to or will look to integrate into that model. I mean, if you look at least the one example I can think of personally is MLB The Show is on Game Pass. And that day and date, Game Pass. So even Sony wants that Game Pass money, and they did it last year, and it's now this year. And as anyone could have predicted, MLB The Show 21 left Game Pass right when 22 came out. Mm-hmm. And so the new season, new game has started, and that existed on Game Pass for a year. And so Microsoft and theoretically Sony are like getting a cut of that as on top of whatever players are purchasing, I guess, in the game. So they're probably making even more money.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think the show is the most, I guess the word would be generous of the sports games in terms of like what you get for what you pay. Okay. And don't have to spend extra money. There's so much more to do in that game than other games. Unfortunately, I just suck at it, so I don't really play it. But also on top of that, 2K does one sale on what they call virtual currency. So that's like the currency you can buy to then go buy stuff. They do one sale the entire year, maybe two. MLB The Show, they call theirs stubs, and stubs go on sale all the time. So if you're like a show player, you are not only are you getting what I would say better value for your money than something like FIFA, but also if you want to spend more money, it's not as expensive.
Right.
So yeah, the show is doing
your dollar
it very
is stretched further in something in the show than it is in FIFA.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But FIFA makes way more money, so I don't know.
It is the biggest sport in the world, so it does have more players.
That's true.
I would think. So that I find that it's such an interesting realm in the games industry that I have never touched. Honestly, the closest probably is Gran Turismo 7, and that's something I never played Gran Turismo before, and I picked up the new one, and I'm totally hooked. And like that's a sport game in the way I haven't even done the GT Sport stuff in the game yet, so I haven't even raced other people or spent money on car currency. And I understand that racing in that particular game is wildly different than what you're doing in FIFA or the show or Madden. Those are, you're buying packs, which are loot boxes essentially, and players and building teams like you were talking about. It's way different than I want to buy 20 million credits to buy this Ferrari. Like it's different in that way, but it's such a big chunk of the market that I'm fascinated by people that play it and like what hooks it in, like gets their hooks in there. It's cool to hear about. Yeah,
it's also weird how little it's talked about in the game press.
Yes.
Which it very much falls in that Roblox style thing where like Roblox is massive, right? But you don't hear like Giant Bomb doing an hour on Roblox ever, even though
because they aren't playing it.
Yeah.
They might be right now because of the Kim Kardashian thing. They may talk about that, but no one's playing Roblox. Like kids are playing it, and that's why it's big. And I think even Minecraft would fall in there. Kids were playing Minecraft. Maybe Fortnite has transcended that because
I think
in a way.
I mean, we do Roblox guides all the time
because it probably brings in a lot of traffic.
Yes, very good traffic.
Those kids are probably, searching like, how do I don't even know what you do in Roblox besides build games and play games. So
I never played it.
How do I get free Robux? I don't know. That's probably the wild thing.
But yeah, it is kind of wild how many things in this industry are not, like how many gigantic audiences we just don't have a way to meet from the games press side of things, where, if you could get like, just because I use them, I'll use Giant Bomb as an example, but if you could get like a small percent of Roblox players starting to watch, like if Jan started a Roblox stream or something, and then they started watching that, they could get, you get so many more people onto whatever your product is, if there was a way to do it. But it's hard, and same with sports, like you could get a ton of people watching your stuff, but the problem is a lot of people in games press don't care about that stuff, and a lot of those communities already have their own like influencers.
They have people, yeah.
So, unless you're like bringing in Ty Debo to be the NBA 2K22 guy at IGN, IGN's not going to get his audience to come over.
Mm-hmm. So then you're almost having to sign talent, which I imagine is in some ways like bringing commentators and stuff over for real sports, like if you were like on a network or something. And I know right now a lot of rumors are swirling that the Sunday ticket for the NFL, the Dish deal was up this year or something, and so it's been a bid war. And it sounds like Apple is pretty much got it locked between them and Amazon. And so, there's probably some talent stuff there where those contracts fall. Who, do they then bring on the people that they're used to folks are used to hearing?
Right.
They just started that Friday Night Baseball stuff on Apple TV Plus, and that's like a new chunk of. I think Hunter Pence is one of the commentators.
Huh.
But so I imagine it's probably a similar mentality there of, well, if we want to do a show about 2K Live or whatever, we would need talent that people would want to come watch.
Right.
To bring that in.
Yeah.
Instead, it's harder to build it from the ground up, even if you are one of the biggest sites in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you just want to bring me in to do it, and then, let's do it.
All right.
I at least know what I'm talking about.
I don't. Don't bring me in. Unless that's your angle. Guy who knows
Yeah, that'd
nothing.
be a great angle. That'd be awesome. Okay, here's what we do. Let's start a series where I play your manager and tell you, like, get you the players and tell you what to do before the game. But then when it starts, I can't. Hands are off. It's all.
You're the coach on the sideline yelling at me.
Yeah.
As long as you wear a suit like they do in basketball on the side.
I'd do that. I have 2 suits. I'll wear a suit.
I would be terrible at this. I would be so bad. The other, is it fair to call it a sport? I'm going to call it a sport. The other sport that you love, and I know this because you're my exposure to it, is the show Survivor.
Uh-huh.
And just like I'm fascinated with these sports games and like this, you have opened my eyes through this whole fantasy Survivor drafts that you've done over on Bantam Banter. Like, Survivor is huge. And I don't know, my brain just processed that Survivor existed, but wasn't as big as it seems to actually be. And so you've inspired me. Abby and I watched the very first season. We started season 2, but then we just stopped. Not because it wasn't interesting, but I think life got away from us and Survivor floated off in the sunset.
Right.
But I guess Logan was telling me the other day they're like on season 40 something.
42, yeah.
The show's alive and kicking. So I guess where to start? Like, all I know about Survivor is season 1, what I've experienced with you in these fantasy things, and then I remember my parents and their friends being into it whenever Boston Rob was around the first time. I know he's come back on other stuff, but it was such a big deal at the time in at least the reality TV space that he in this, I don't even know what the lady's name is. I believe they're still married.
Amber, yeah.
Amber.
They are still married, yes.
They fell in love on the show. It was, and he came in second and then proposed live when they gave her like $1 million or whatever.
Yeah, that was actually his second. That was both their second season.
See, look at me. I don't even know. But that's all I really know about the show. And you, sir, are an expert, I believe. You sound like
weird because okay, I've seen every season at least 3 times.
That sounds like an expert to me.
Yeah, except for a couple. But then it's weird because, like I would say I'm an expert at sports games, but when I listen to people who podcast about Survivor who know, I mean, I watched a guy, he's been on the show too, on Survivor. His name's Rob Cisternino. He's on 2 seasons. He's on Amazon and All Stars with Rob, the other Rob. I watched him name every single cast member that's ever been on the show.
No.
And that to me is insane. Like, that's an expert, like, sure, I could tell you every season's winner and like the order, and stuff like that. But and like a lot of the big moments, but to know like that's a real expert. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I am an expert, but it's weird because I know people who are. I'm a super fan, and there are super duper fans. I guess is a way to say it.
Super duper fan. I can roll with that.
Yeah.
I guess my first question is like, how is Survivor still on TV?
Okay, here's my opinion. Obviously, it should go without saying that I think Survivor is one of it's first or second best show on TV, in my opinion. It kind of like, it depends on how good the challenge is that season. Like Survivor is much more consistent than the challenge, but they're both very, very good, and they're both, very entertaining, and they're always different. But I think the main reason Survivor is still on TV is you got to think about how much cheaper that show is to film than most other shows. You know what I mean? Like, to film a season of Survivor is not going to cost the same as, I don't know, what is The Big Bang Theory? Like, The Big Bang Theory is probably like 10 times more expensive than Survivor. And especially in nowadays when everything is on streaming, I wouldn't be surprised if we get even more Survivor. Like if there are more spinoffs. I mean, they're trying to do one right now. It's called Beyond the Edge. It's like Celebrity Survivor, but it's not really Survivor. I mean, I don't know. It's not very good. But it has Mike Singletary and Ray Lewis and his name is no longer Meta World Peace. It is now, oh my gosh, I can't remember his first name. Ron Artest. He used to be Ron Artest, and then he was Meta World Peace, and now he's like Ron Meta, his wife's last name or something like that. Yeah, something. I knew it was weird. Oh, is it Meta Sanford Artest?
That's what Google's given me. The former professional basketball player.
Yeah, yes. So it has like ex-pro athletes, and it's hosted by Mara Ranello, who used to be on WWE commentary and does a bunch of like UFC and fighting events. And it has it's the middle daughter in Full House. I think her first name is Jodie Sweetin.
Stephanie? Whatever her
Stephanie.
Real name is, I don't know, but Steph.
Oh. Yeah, yes, Steph. It has her on it and other like B or C list celebrities. And it's not very good, but I think that is the biggest reason Survivor is still on TV, is that it is entertaining. So it has like a very dedicated core audience, but then even more than that, it is cheap to produce compared to other TV shows.
I'm looking at this now. This Beyond the Edge thing.
Oh yeah,
Steph not good. I mean, I guess I see it in her face. She looks she looks like she's screaming in the water. What happened? So is this hosted by the same? Oh no, you said it wasn't hosted by that guy, but it's. They don't win money for themselves, do they? Is it for?
Yeah, they're playing for a charity.
Yeah, usually when it's celebrities, they play for charity.
Usually, I think it's Celebrity Big Brother. They play for money for themselves, which is weird.
That is a little weird. I feel like
because it's like
you already
Chris
have
Kattan was on there. Yeah, you would. I mean, you would hope so. Chris Kattan was on there. People from what's that show called? The Real Housewives were on there.
Ooh.
Also not very good. But Big Brother isn't very good in general. So I don't know. That might be a hot take for some people out there. But Big Brother used to be good. Big Brother sucks since like season 15. And we're on 23 or 24 now, Max. So it's been a while since Big Brother was good. And it's only once a year, unlike Survivor, which is twice a year. So it's been a while.
Wow. That's crazy. So my other question is apparently at some point this show, Survivor, goes crazy, like flips a switch and becomes this mind game where they're really messing with each other in kind of you correct me if I'm wrong, but like a backstabby, manipulative, hardcore. It is mental and physical, all the way through or whatever. Like, when does that happen? There's some of it in season 1, which is all I'm familiar with, but it sounds like it goes to another level at some point and becomes the show that I think is on now, essentially.
So there's like, you can kind of look at various eras of Survivor and kind of where like the game evolved. So I think, you brought up Boston Rob earlier. His first season, Marquesas, which is season 4, was the first time that there was so you'll remember in season 1, there was an alliance, but if you were on the bottom of the alliance, you weren't going to go work with the other people that weren't in your alliance. You were just going to hope you made it to the end, right? Because we weren't in an alliance.
Yeah, they were kind of almost casual about their alliances in a way. It was just they were almost people of their word to a degree, except some of them, but those people were generally at the top.
Dr. Sean wasn't going with Jervis to go flip on, Rich and Sue and all them.
Could have changed everything.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Marquesas is actually the first time that happens, where the people on the bottom of an alliance flip to the other tribe, and then they vote out the people on top, which I guess, sorry, I'm spoiling a little bit of Survivor for you if you ever watch it. You probably forget it by the time you get there if you've only watched one season in a year. So, and that it's not really so much Rob that does that. I mean, he gets the ball rolling, but it's really other people that do it. And then you have All Stars, which is really weird because they're friends in real life, and then they turn on each other in a very dramatic way, and it gets really nasty and gross. And then, you have a couple of seasons where it's, obviously there's strategy, but it's not anything crazy. And then stuff gets added to the game. So they add an hidden individual immunity. So what it is it's
this is in those fantasy things you've done with me.
So that gives players who don't have as big of an alliance more power. And so it makes stuff happen that wouldn't happen before. But then really where you get to the game where it really becomes more of a game than a social experiment is Samoa, which is season 19, which is a guy named Russell Hantz comes on there, and he is just one of the most despicable human beings you'll ever see. He makes it very, very far, and he is finding. So before him, the only way you'd find an idol is if you had a clue to it, and then you could be oh, this is where it is. I'll go look for it there and find it. Dude just walks out into onto the beach and hunts for him. He's like a truffle pig for idols. He finds them. And the way he does it is he can see that if he goes to a certain place, more camera people are following him because they know the idol is close. So he might find it. So he uses the camera crew to lead him to idols in this really ingenious way.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then, yeah. And then kind of from there, it just it's off like a rocket. The problem is though, for a while, is they started casting a lot of what they call mactors, which are model actors, people who don't never watched Survivor before, but they're hot. And so they brought them out to look hot.
So they look good on the beach on a desert island, and sure.
And that era is definitely rougher, which is 21 to maybe 24. So there's 4 or 5 seasons in there that are kind of rough. But then after that, they've pretty much been casting more people who actually want to play. And also you got to think when it was first on, nobody had seen anything like this before, for the most part. By the time you're in season 30, all these people watching, have kind of grown up with the show.
Yeah.
Or all the people playing. So they have seen stuff
the last 10 years watching Survivor.
Yeah. So it's just going to evolve in that way too, where people are going to say, oh, I would have done this instead of that. So when I get out there, I'm going to do, such and such. So I think that's a big part of why it's evolved, is people watching it, but also they have definitely gone really far in terms of how many twists they add to the game. So there's nothing in the first season. It is straight up back to basics. I mean, I guess not back to basics. It was the basics, just very simple. There's nothing extra. Now you got extra votes, steal a vote, knowledge is power, idols. You have an amulet that 3 people get one of them, and if 3 people are there and you all use it together, you can steal a vote. But if one person gets voted out, now that thing becomes more powerful. And then if another person gets voted out that has amulet, you have sole control, and now you have some. It's crazy. You have people getting beware advantages, and now they don't have a vote until they say a secret phrase before an event, and then two other people from it have to have secret phrases. That's my favorite Survivor GIF you just shared.
I didn't mean to do that right now, but
oh,
I wanted to. We'll talk about it in a second.
But yeah, it is. There's so much stuff in the game, and like some people don't like it, and to some degree, I don't love it. Like I think there's a big twist. This is just a twist spoiler. It's not going to be a big spoiler, but in season 41, right? They've had
so far away.
Yeah. If you're going to watch the whole thing, it'll take you a while to get there. Season 41, they had a year off because of COVID, right? So They're like, we've gone to the drawing board. We have all these new ideas. We're going to add them to the game. And they added this thing called the hourglass twist. And so what happened is at the merge, instead of merging, they put them in two teams, right? And you compete. If your team wins, you're immune at the first vote of the merge, which is huge. It's awesome, amazing. You don't have to worry about getting voted out first of the merge. If you win, you also have to select someone from the other side that goes to their own island away from everyone else. When that person gets to the island, they get the chance to smash an hourglass. And if they do that, the people who won that challenge are now no longer safe. People who lost are now safe. And so Jeff is like, all right, guys, you're perfectly safe. And then 2 days later, he's like, oh, just kidding. You're not safe. And everybody hated it. Everybody. They brought it back for season 42. I will say it's not as bad, but it's still annoying. Like it's like I think it's one of the worst twists ever. So sometimes Jeff and his team get a little too cute with it. And this is one of those times. But yeah, I think there's definitely eras. We are in, there's one season very recently that is like almost skippable, I will say, because of how gross it is. There's some like borderline sexual harassment. I shouldn't even say borderline. There's some sexual harassment in it that is kind of hard to watch and does not make Survivor production look very good. But otherwise,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we've had some pretty good seasons ever since, I don't know, probably, really since I started watching, which was season 25, Karamoan. There's like a couple of duds in there, but most of these have been good. I'm looking at it now.
Looking at the whole list of it.
I will say I would probably call like 7 seasons of Survivor bad. So,
but when you're in a pool of 42 seasons, I guess that's, I'm bad at math, but 7 divided by 42, that's below 25%, probably.
Yeah.
It's below 20. I don't know. The math is not great. Now I have to pull up a calculator and do it because now I just feel bad for being a goofball. So see, we're going to take 7 and divide it by 42 and multiply by 100. That's only 16%.
Yeah, that's not bad. Is it 16.66?
Yeah. 60,
repeating,
66,
of course.
So that's, because I want to watch the show. It's definitely more than I ever thought it was, just kind of in passing in pop culture. It seems pretty actually engaging and exciting in a game sort of way. So yeah. I want to watch more. I have Paramount Plus right now for Halo, which I've watched all of one episode, and I didn't think it was that great. So maybe I should just pivot and focus on Survivor instead for this period of time.
If you're anything like my wife and I, we will sometimes binge an entire season in a day. Over a weekend. We'll just be like, it's a Saturday. Let's watch all of Tocantins again. So
I don't know if Abby and I will be there, but maybe in the summer when she's not. She's a teacher, so she won't be working in the summer. So maybe, possibly, who knows? The other Survivor question. A few times I've done shows with you in the past, you've talked about how you will be on Survivor someday.
Yeah, I'm manifesting.
How does one? Is it like other shows where you just send in an audition tape and you get selected?
Yeah, so I try to do it in August every year.
You've actively done this.
Oh yeah, I think I've applied 4 times now.
Huh. Do you like hear back either way, or is it like job applications where you only hear if they want to talk to you?
You only hear if they want to talk to you. And I will say my first few videos were bad, like really bad. I think my last one was okay. I have some ideas for my next one. It's just, for me, I am not very good at being entertaining when I don't have someone else to talk to. Like, I feel like when, like me and you talking, I could be, funny and like riff off you. But if it's just me standing there speaking, I feel like my personality doesn't really come through very well. So that's always been an issue with, like, even with job applications of, like, I feel like if I get the interview, then I could probably get the job. But the problem is getting the interview. Like, I feel like I'm
getting past the application phase.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a pretty good talker. Although one time I did not get the job, but that's because it was for an RA position. And one of the people in the job interviews was my old RA, and he was not a fan of me as a freshman in college.
Couldn't sweet talk your way.
I tried hard, man.
Years.
I tried hard. I was like, man, you did so much good for us, and you taught me so much. I've grown so much since then, and a lot of it's because of you, like, teaching me the right way to do stuff. Blah blah blah. Did not work. Also, that dude. Okay, it's for an RA position at a small state school, and he was like, you should never show up to a job not in a suit, or a job interview not in a suit. And I was like, what? I mean, I was not like in bad clothes, but he was like, every job interview you have, you should be in a suit. Yeah, every job interview you should have to be in a suit. I was like, what? Are you kidding? He was the only person there in a suit, but he was saying everyone should show up in a suit. And that was like part of the reason he didn't hire me, was that I didn't show up in a suit.
That's like clothes. Clothingism.
I don't know. It's weird. So then, like, every other interview I've ever had, except for the one at DoubleXP, when they interviewed me, even though they'd already known me for 9 months to do the full-time position, I've shown up in a suit to every other job interview. I showed up to a suit. This is so dumb. Okay. So I used to be a teacher, much like your wife, although I taught PE and was our athletic director. So it was probably very different. So during the summer, I did a job where I did a rock climbing, like a rock climbing camp for kids. And for that job, to interview to get that job, I showed up in a suit. It was I was like, why did I do this? You let that guy get in your head again. It's been 10 years and that guy's still in your head.
Please tell me you rock climbed in the suit, like as a demo of your ability.
I did not do that. I did not do that. That'd have been great.
That's wild. That one RA has had such an impact on your style of interview, like the way you go to a job, and it's crazy how the mind works.
Like, you just don't want that to be the reason again,
Yeah, like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. Or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. But you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I was going for.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. So is in your application videos for Survivor, are you wearing a suit?
I'm not actually. So maybe that's what the change I'll make.
That could be what you could start and then rip the suit and then run into the ocean.
Yeah, man, that'd be sweet.
Having never seen an application video for Survivor, I imagine it involves showing off some of your physical activity as well as your personality.
So I don't know. It's weird what gets accepted, because sometimes it's just like people talking, because that's the thing they want to see, right? Is like they want you to be, obviously they want you to be entertaining and like personable, but the really thing they're looking for is someone that can narrate. So someone that can talk over a scene and like explain stuff. So they want someone who's good in confessionals. So it's not so much like,
one way to put it.
I will say, I told you when we were scheduling this podcast that I'm currently on a diet, and part of the reason I'm losing weight is, I'm not like overweight, but part of it is like I am about to turn, what year is it? 2020. I'm about to turn 34, and I'm like, well, I work out a lot. That makes me sound very. I work out every day, and can lift a lot of weight.
You're very regular with your workout.
Yeah, I can lift a lot of weight. I can run pretty far, but I eat like crap because I do those things. So like it's, that's
so
my excuse for
the
working
eating
out.
part as well as your consistency in working out.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm about to turn 34. I've never in my life had abs. If I don't do it now, it's never going to happen because I'm getting too old. So let's just do it. But then the other part of me is like, well, if I get abs, then I could rip my shirt off in my Survivor video, so that would look good, right? So it's like half that, half just like what would happen. I mean, I've never done it before, so like, why not? You know,
as long as like you and like just normal health goal, like I've never had abs before, why not? If as long as that's the primary reason, sure. And then Survivor's a benefit, but if Survivor's the goal, that could turn unhealthy.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's not. It's like it's probably like 45 to 55%. So
hey,
like 55
it's strategy because you want to be on the show.
It's true. I'm gonna be on the show.
You are going to be on the show.
It's happening.
I'm looking up Survivor application.
Yeah.
Survivor casting. So it's every August?
Well, okay, so
apply now for season 43.
You can apply whenever you want, but I like to apply toward the end of the summer because that's when they're like ramping up production, so they're like looking for people.
We will be taping season 43 between mid-May of 22 and early July of 22.
Yeah, they already got all the people for 43 and 44 though, I think. I mean, maybe you could get a late call, but
sure.
I'm already in the 45 46 cycle mindset.
Interesting. How do you submit this? Is it like an unlisted YouTube video?
You can do it that way. I mean, you could just upload a video to their thing.
They have a thing you can just send it to.
Yeah, it's also really annoying because it can only be 3 minutes, which is hard to like say very much about yourself in 3 minutes, you know?
You almost would have to script it. Like,
yeah,
tightly write a 3-minute script, and almost you would have to, you know, storyboard like shots, or if you were going to that level of like, you know, this. Okay, so here's how I'm thinking of it. Within the past, since we got married, probably a little bit into our marriage, so within the past 5 years, The Bachelor has become a part of our lives, which I think only is similar to Survivor in the sense of it is a reality TV show. And Bachelor is just, it's schlock. It's just fun, delicious schlock to watch and just see people ruin their lives in the best way. It's fantastic. People make the dumbest choices, and I love it. So we watch that. But those show application videos in the initial episode, and it's usually beautiful people, like in athletic clothes, running on the beach and going, I want to date. You know, I could find true love. And there's like a limited, I think of it like an elementary school or middle school vocab test. There is a vocab box, and you have to use all the words and fill in the blanks, and you know, I believe in the process and true love and all this other, you know, a snake. If you there's probably drinking games for Bachelor that involve, you know, every time someone's called a snake, you take a shot, and people have probably ended up in the hospital. So I'm picturing Survivor application videos in the same way, where it's showing you doing Survivor stuff while you also talk about yourself. Is that accurate, or is there more? Is it different?
I mean, I think people do that.
Sure.
I have, I'm not going to send it to you, but I have a Reddit thread of like every successful video that's been posted publicly. And like, it's very different. Like a lot of it depends on you too, you know, obviously if you're like, I was about to say a person's name from this season, but you don't know who they are. Maybe Jervis. Like, I feel like Jervis is probably gonna be shirtless, you know, or like, you know, someone who is good looking is probably going to want to show that off. Whereas me, not so good looking, I have to like show off that I am either like funny or smart or strategic. And so that doesn't need as much, I would assume. Obviously I haven't gotten a call back yet, but I would assume doesn't need as much visuals as some other people might need. But, you know, maybe that's, I mean, I've tried both ways, to be fair. I've done both, and neither of them have worked. So
it sounds like an intense creative process almost to like, you have to sell yourself to a network in 3 minutes.
Yes.
Against how many competitors are there a season on average?
I mean, there's got to be thousands of people that apply.
But how many do they pick in the end?
20, usually 18.
So you've got to go up against, you've got to fit in dynamically with 19 other people.
Right, yeah.
Because, you know, they have a roster in their mind of like, this is what we're going for this season. These people seem to fit in this formula we're shooting for.
And unfortunately, I would guess that like geeky, nerdy, maybe funny white guy is probably the person they get the most applications from. So,
Probably.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's tough to think of a way to stand out, except for maybe like if I have abs.
Well, I wish you the very best with your ab journey, and I'm excited to see you on Survivor someday. When you end up on Survivor, I definitely will be tuning in live for that one. Because I would actually know someone on Survivor. So that would be fun to do someday. And maybe I can convince Abby to start it back up with me.
I will say, if I may, I know I said it in our chat earlier as kind of a joke, but if you like The Bachelor, y'all might like The Challenge more than Survivor. Because it is like the perfect mix of like that bad drama from The Bachelor and the competitive strategic part of Survivor.
Okay.
That you don't really get anywhere else. Also, and it has a lot of seasons available on Paramount Plus as well.
Okay. Duly noted. I will look at The Challenge now. Before we go, I remembered that I sent this in chat unsolicited. What is the origin of this smiling GIF? Because it's iconic. I know it. I think a lot of people know it. But it's these two women in front looking like shocked and surprised in a negative way. Like, I can't believe whatever just happened. But the man behind them just like slow turns into a giant smile. And it's like, it looks like someone broke their leg, but he's really thrilled that they broke their leg. So you got to tell me the context of this.
Okay, so this is from one of a lot of people's least favorite Survivor seasons, or at least up there, okay. Survivor Gabon. It is set in Africa, so it's like very different from a lot of normal Survivors because they don't have they're not on like a beach or anything, and they can see elephants and stuff. It's kind of it's different. It's cool. Which is the thing Survivor used to do before the 20s, when now it's all in Fiji. They used to go to different places and do cool stuff. This is a guy whose name is Matty. He's a great character. Actually, he's really not a great character. He's kind of boring, but he's definitely famous now. And basically, so the way Survivor works is you're split into tribes, right? And so you don't know who gets voted out from your tribe, from the other tribe the night before. So this clip where the girls are like in shock and Maddie delayedly, what would you say there? Has a big smile with a delay.
Yeah, a delayed smile.
A delayed smile. There we go. What's happening is the other tribe is coming in to that challenge. So Maddie's tribe is already there, and the other tribe comes in and they're seeing the person who got voted out. And so the girls are like shocked that it's Marcus, and Maddie is excited. Okay.
He sees an opportunity.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't believe so-and-so got kicked out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because it's iconic.
It's a very good GIF. Yeah. There are some very good Survivor GIFs, but there's that one, and then there's another one that is probably my two favorites, where there's a girl who's like, she's like on like a rope, and she's like holding ropes trying to walk across it, and it's like a very much like, I can't handle what's going on right now. This is I don't see if I can find it. That's not good podcasting. But yeah,
I just typed Survivor rope GIF, but that didn't lead me anywhere. Rope girl. I'm gonna find it. Is it purple rope?
Yeah, purple rope.
She looks very intense. Maybe I'll find it someday.
She's struggling. She's struggling.
All right.
There it is right there. Yeah. Angela, who is...
Oh, there it is. In motion makes it way...
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Angela is one of the greatest modern characters in Survivor history. She's not a very good player, but that girl was
She is holding on to that rope with her neck.
Yeah.
That is so good.
It's a really good GIF.
Links to these will be in the show notes for sure. And I think on NetGirl here, that's where we'll wrap up this episode. Ricky, thank you so much for joining me
for
this episode. Where can the people find you on the internet? What would you like to plug? Anything?
I mean, obviously, like Twitter, it's just my name, Ricky Frech, and then one of our friends, Michael Ruiz, and I do a podcast sometimes. It's very we do it just for fun, so it's not like we're trying to make it a thing. Really, it's just like an excuse for Michael and I to talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's not like this show where, like, I mean, I came in here, Max has show notes. Like, this is a real podcast. Michael and I are like 5 minutes before, we're like, hey, you want to talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark this week? Hey, let's make a bracket about all the best backyard sports people. Like, we just are like, let's
Pablo
have some
Sanchez
fun.
is the correct answer.
Yeah. Pablo Sanchez was not eligible because he is the correct answer. He could not win. So we pretended, I think we did a karate tournament. So it was an even playing field. They never played the sport before. And in that universe, Pablo Sanchez had died. So it was the Pablo Sanchez Memorial Karate Tournament. But
Poor
yeah,
Pablo.
that podcast is called Bantam Banter, named after a bar in the Yakuza series. It's a good time. It's kind of off the rails a lot, but in a fun way usually.
I've been on one episode of that show that I just don't think is live yet.
Yeah, it could take a while,
which is totally fine. But it's one of the episodes, the PlayStation Island episode, Bantam Banter, episode 11, which has our friend Logan Moore on it. You guys did a Survivor style bracket of PlayStation characters. And I could not believe it was Sackboy, right? He had at least 2 or 3.
Yes, yeah, Sackboy
immunity idols. That was a journey. That I highly recommend that episode. And then you guys invited me for a Nintendo themed Survivor Island bracket, which also was a journey, I thought. So I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't believe there was a car in the PlayStation episode. It was so good. That was so much fun. So
yeah, they're fun.
Links to that stuff in the show notes as well. You can also check out Ricky's writing over at DoubleXP now, formerly GamePer. So definitely go check that out as well. He is the associate editor over there and writes lots of guides when other people aren't, or he doesn't have something to edit.
Yeah, and some reviews.
Like
a few
the Kirby
features here and there. Yeah.
Kirby. If you want to find me, you can follow me on Twitter at MaxRoberts143 and my writing over at maxfrequency.net. There's this show, which you're obviously listening to now, so thank you very much. You can also check out our seasonal podcast I do over there called Chapter Select, which I do with Logan Moore. Ricky was on an episode with us, Super Paper Mario, for Season 1. So you can go listen to us talk about that game. Season 3 is coming very soon. We are in the middle of production right now, and we'll announce that soon-ish, I believe. So we're getting ready to plug away. And for you fine folks listening, so one of the guests this season is Michael Ruiz, who co-hosts Bantam Banter with Ricky. So there you go. Little crossover action with the Bantam Banter universe. So thank you all very much for listening to this fine episode of the Max Frequency Podcast. And until next time, adios.